Hi guys, it's Robin, and today I want to talk to you about whole grains. And I'm also going to share with you a really simple and quick recipe that utilizes one of my favorite whole grains, quinoa. It's a Mediterranean quinoa salad. First, I want to talk to you a little bit about whole grains because I think there's some misinformation about there that kind of leads us astray. Whole grains are basically just that. They're grains that are in their whole state, and that's how we should be eating them. Things like whole oats, quinoa, for example, whole brown rice or long grain rice, barley, millet is another one, rye, buckwheat, those kinds of things. Where I think we get led astray is when we go to the grocery store and we might see things with labels on it that say made with whole grain or whole wheat something or other, things like our bread. Well, just because something says it's made with whole grain doesn't mean that you're getting the whole grain. Okay, so all of our flours basically are from grains, no matter if they say they're from whole wheat or not. So what happens a lot when we're making flours is the grain actually gets stripped of all of its nutrition, pretty much, and it's really devoid of just about anything. So in turn, that flour ends up has absolutely no nutritional value and really is no different once it gets in our body than, say, sugar. So we all know what the effects of sugar can do, but a lot of flours and refined grains end up having that same effect. Okay, so that's why we have to really necessarily go back to eating just whole grains in their natural state, like quinoa, for example. Okay, so let's get to this recipe because it's a really good one. Now, I've made this before several times and I always get lots of compliments on it and people asking for the recipe. So I decided, hey, why don't I share it with all of you guys so you can enjoy it too. It's super easy. Quinoa is a really great whole grain. If you've never tried it, I highly recommend you try it. It's basically actually a seed. And so with that, it is very high in protein, and it's actually a complete protein. It's the only grain of its kind that's like that. So a little bit goes a long way in keeping you full. It has lots of other nutritional value to it. It has a really great nutty flavor. I just love it. You can use it in so many different ways, but I like to make it in this salad. So I basically took half a cup of quinoa and I cooked it in a cup of water. Now you can add a little bit more flavor to it and cook it with a cup of vegetable broth or chicken broth, but because this salad has a dressing in it, I really didn't think it needed to, so water was good too. Whenever you cook quinoa, and most grains are kind of like this, it's kind of a 2-to-1 ratio, so 2 cups of liquid for 1 cup of the grain. So I took actually a half a cup of quinoa for the salad and a cup of water, and usually in about 10 minutes it's done. So I've already cooked it and cooled it. And then basically I'm going to add in 2 cups of cucumbers. These cucumbers came right out of my garden. It's cucumber time. And so we'll put in the cucumbers. I'm also putting in about a half a cup or 3/4 of a cup of chopped red pepper. Now with your produce, it really is a good idea to try to get organic produce. Now organic produce can sometimes cost us a little bit more money, and so it's not that every single thing that we buy needs to be organic, but if you're really concerned about the amount of pesticides and herbicides that are on your food, I'd suggest going on the internet. You can find it really anywhere. Just to Google Clean 15 or Dirty Dozen, and you'll get a list of the top 12 produce of the year that have the most pesticide and chemical residual on it. So those are the ones that you really want to try to buy organically to minimize your chemical exposure. And the Clean 15 are kind of those other ones that they don't use a lot of pesticides when they grow them, so those are okay to then go and buy the conventional kind. So I just wanted to mention that. I also put in a half a cup of chopped organic grape tomatoes. Again, those are coming out of my garden too. And then I have about 2 tablespoons of red onion. If you don't like a lot of red onion, you can back off on that or add more. Really, all these measurements are just to taste. So if you like a little more of one thing and a little less of another, feel free. Then I put about a half a cup of feta. Feta is such a great flavor, and it really adds something to it. The other thing that I'm going to add is a really nice other high protein food, which are legumes. These are black beans. I love adding black beans or legumes in general to things. They bump up the fiber content of your meal. It's a great source of, like a vegetarian source of protein. So a little of that will bump it up and go a long way too. So basically then we're going to add the dressing. Now this dressing is a very versatile dressing. I use it for everything. I put it on my salad, I marinate with it. It's super easy. And you can double or triple it however you want to. But I'm starting with a half a cup of extra virgin olive oil. And then I'm adding in 2 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar. And then literally I'm just putting in a squeeze of Dijon mustard. Now the Dijon mustard, it may add a little bit of flavor, but it's basically used as an emulsifier. And what that means is when we add it to vinegar and oil and we shake it up, it will keep the oil and vinegar together. Now if you like a little bit of sweetness to your dressing, I'll sometimes add a little bit of stevia, which is a natural sweetener. You can try maple syrup or a little honey in there just to sweeten it up. Feel free to add any kind of herb that you want, but you don't really need it. The balsamic vinegar gives it a great taste already. So basically I'm going to shake this up. Doesn't take long at all. And then we're pouring it in. If you don't really need to add all of it, that's entirely up to you. I've noticed that the quinoa really soaks it up, so I end up using pretty much most of that dressing. It has such great colors, and on top of that, just great flavors. Let me just show you guys, I'll get up close to that. Look at that. It is so delicious, it's so filling, it's so healthy. Guys, if you have never tried quinoa, I highly recommend going out and getting it. It's going to be your new favorite whole grain, and it's going to be easier to start adding whole grains in your diet. Thanks guys, bye-bye.